Hello there, and welcome to the Time Machine with Trish and Mike. I'm Mike.
And I'm Trish.
And we're glad you're with us once again here, believe it or not, for episode 40.
Woo, 40.
We have done 39 of these things, and we are here to do a 40th one, despite my protests of canceling the show because Trish hates candy corn.
I promised you good candy in exchange. I'll just send you some good Canadian chocolate.
You have sent me good candy before. Yeah. I will say that. And I like and if anybody listening, because we have people that listen in the States as well, check your local grocery store. Maybe there might be a section in the international food aisle or something. You might be able to find some of these things, because I've found some of the things that you send me from time to time. Coffee Crisp. I love those. They're kind of like the best way I can describe them to anybody that's never had one is think of like a coffee flavored giant Kit Kat.
Yeah, because it has the wafers in it. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. They're really
I have
good.
A few things that should be showing up at your doorstep soon.
Oh, well, I'm excited. Yeah. I need to get you a box going here, because I think I still owe you a birthday box or something. Actually.
Well, that cookie dough or cookie butter.
Cookie butter.
That was always good.
All right, I'll make sure you get some more of that.
Yeah. And I mean, in Canada, we can get a few things. Like I saw a box of Tricks the other day at the grocery store. That was really exciting. There was some vanilla Cokes kicking around a couple weeks ago. So you never know. Yeah.
All right, then. Well, I am excited. Yeah, we need to, whatever we're doing for Christmas, we might need to get on that sooner rather than later here, because it's already November. And
it's November.
With what they're saying with, shipping delays and
I know.
Just even in general, as we've sent stuff to each other, it can usually take 2 or 3 weeks sometimes for it to get to the other person.
Well, and Canada used to be really bad about getting things on time to the States. And now there's kind of like this flip.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's, you guys are obviously dealing with a lot more at your borders than we are, right? With people trying to come and go and all that jazz. So I think there's been a bit of delay in terms of some of the postal workers here in Canada have told me that there's been workers in the States that have been moved to different parts of the border on both sides. Like we only have to deal with one border. You have 2.
Right. And, I'm just not even going to get into the whole.
Oh, we're not getting into the politics of it. It's just the logistics of having 2 borders.
Right. And the management of the post office over the last year and a half. I mean, the quality of service is, I'm just not even going to get into it. So let's just get into the show, shall we?
We will get into the show. Yeah. But yes, it's
frustrating.
Is quickly going to be upon us. So get your shipping done early.
Yes. Because we got Thanksgiving here in a couple of weeks and, more like 3 weeks, I guess, at this point. But of course, you just had Thanksgiving about a month ago. So it's our turn to eat the turkey.
Yeah, I will, look from afar longingly as you celebrate your turkey day.
I will send you a selfie as I'm eating some pumpkin pie or something for you.
Maybe I'll just have one in celebration with you. But
there you go.
It's interesting that there can be difference in terms of holidays, so which does take us into the first segment. We're going to look at Guy Fawkes Day, which is really interesting. Right? It's also called Bonfire Night, and it's a British observance celebrated on November 5th, commemorating the failure of what's known as the GunPowder Plot of 1605. So even though Canada being part of the Commonwealth, it's not a holiday that we celebrate. But my mom's best friend is from England, and she was a teacher in my hometown. And so she, didn't really celebrate Halloween, although anytime my brothers and I showed up at her house, she would give like the full size candy bar. And we were her special, like, people that she gave stuff out at Halloween. But she did always celebrate Guy Fawkes. And she would tell me about Guy Fawkes.
You've always been special.
Always been special.
Yes, remember the 5th of November.
Right. And if you remember to last week on our 2-minute tutor time, I mentioned how Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church and declared himself the head of the Anglican Church. Well, the Gunpowder Plot conspirators, led by Robert Catesby, They were zealous Roman Catholics that were actually enraged by King James I of England, which is going to be Henry VIII's great grandnephew via his sister's marriage to the Scottish throne. And James I was refusing to grant greater religious tolerance to Catholics. So in response, they planned to blow up the House of Parliament, which is the Palace of Westminster, during the state opening of Parliament, intending to kill the king and the members of the Parliament in order to clear the way to establish a Catholic rule in England. Now, the plan failed when the conspirators were betrayed. One of them that we think of most notably, Guy Fawkes, was taken into custody the evening before the attack, and he was actually held in the cellar where they were going to stash the explosives, which seems like a little bit of a rub, right? Like, oh, here's your plan, haha. The other conspirators were all either killed resisting capture, or like Fawkes, they were tried, convicted, and executed. So in the aftermath of all this, as one does, Parliament declared November 5th a national day of Thanksgiving, and the first celebration of it took place in 1606. So they're like, hooray, let's celebrate the killing of this person. So
it's kind of weird when you put it that way, but yeah, that's pretty much what they do.
So now Guy Fawkes Day, I mean, obviously we keep talking about how COVID's impacted these holidays, but it's celebrated in the United Kingdom and actually a number of countries that were formerly part of the British Empire, but not Canada. With they have parades, fireworks, bonfires, and special foods. Now, straw effigies of Fawkes are tossed onto a bonfire, or in more recent years, sometimes they throw on contemporary political figures. So they kind of connect current political unrest with past political unrest.
Which is a slippery slope, but we'll,
Traditionally, children would carry these effigies called guys, in name of Guy Fawkes, through the streets in the days leading up to Guy Fawkes Day, and they would ask people for the penny for the guy, and reciting that rhyme that you so lovingly stated at the beginning of the segment.
Thank you.
Okay. So fireworks, of course, are a major component at most Guy Fawkes Day celebrations because they represent the explosives that were never used by the plotters. And the guards of Westminster will actually perform an annual search of the Parliament building to check for potential arsonists, right? And in the ceremonial kind of search rather than anything. They're not actually worried about.
It's a ceremonial search, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of, it's really interesting. It's like, oh, in North America, it's like Halloween, right? Ghosts and goblins and ghouls and the connection there between the Celtic traditions and the Christian church. And then in England, where they actually had a lot of Celtic individuals residing, they don't really celebrate Halloween, but they have this Guy Fawkes Day.
Yeah. It's, it's always been a holiday. I don't know if it's a holiday. Do we count it as a holiday? It's a day. I don't know. It's one that I've never quite fully, I guess, understood. Like, are you celebrating? What are you celebrating? Like, it's kind of confusing until you kind of dig down deeper into it.
It's like, okay, so the king wasn't killed, but people were already displeased with the king. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's very kind of, it's an odd thing. Is it fair to say it might be one of the strangest holidays that a country celebrates?
Well, and like, why was Guy Fawkes picked out? Like, he wasn't even the main guy. He was just one of many conspirators. He just has a cool name, I guess.
If that was even his name, was it? Do we know?
That's according to history records, it was his name.
Did he wear the mask?
He did not.
Because the mask is cool.
The mask is cool. V for Vendetta is cool.
Yeah.
Vigo, or not, it wasn't Viggo Morris. Yeah. Wait, no, Hugo
Morrison.
Yes. I was thinking, no, wait, what am I thinking of? Viggo Morrison's he played Aragon. Who actually played V?
It was the brother.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
We're mixing up the two last names. Whatever. I'm like, we're definitely right on the name Hugo.
Yes. Natalie Portman was in it.
Natalie Portman was in it. She did a really good job. Like,
Evie. Yeah.
There's a few movies of hers that I'm like not as impressed by, but her
episode 2, maybe.
Maybe came to mind.
I like her in episode 1 though. She was a great Padme.
Yeah. Well, and then wasn't she in that? Wasn't there like one about pharmaceuticals, drug and sex and other drugs?
Sex, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
And then she's gonna be in the new Thor movie next year.
She was cute in the Thor movie, though.
Yeah.
Like I ship them. That's
Okay.
cute.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah. And then like burning straw effigies, like puppets, just kind of weird.
A little bit.
It's like burn. I don't know, like Burning Man, but different. I don't know.
Burn, baby, burn. Well, you know what?
Anyway,
effigies that's kind of cute.
I think you're going to tell me.
Like maybe characters on Sesame Street.
Oh, how sad would that be?
Somebody starts burning Elmo.
Someone,
Elmo,
Well,
extra crispy.
Elmo, after the whole potty, like potty toy that was around in the early 2000s, it's like, okay, you can burn that one. But
What about Tickle Me Elmo? Do you remember when that was the big toy?
Oh my gosh. And people were like busting down like stores to get in get the Tickle Me Elmo. It freaked me out. I had a little cousin that had one. Mm-mm.
And that's something else this year. I think you're gonna see if we were kind of joking earlier about shipping your stuff early for Christmas. Start shopping. If you have not started your shopping already, you need to get on that because there's going to be stuff that you're not going to be able to get closer to Christmas time. I mean, there's like I don't know what the new big hot toy this year is going to be, but between COVID and shipping delays, because there's still ships off the coast that can't dock because there's not the dock workers to unload them.
I saw that off of the coast of California, and it's crazy.
Yeah, so get your holiday shopping done now.
Yeah. I've had a friend that already started in September because she was like, "Yep, it's going to be bad. It's not going to ship on time." And I'm like, I feel like a bad person,
especially if you're. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I haven't started.
Yeah, I feel bad. I need to, but like especially if you're buying from small businesses. Like, small little Etsy stores or something, do that stuff now. And please be nice to the store owners because once they've shipped your item out, it's out of their control.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Don't blow their junk up saying like, hey, where's my stuff? I shipped it. I've given you the tracking number.
Yep.
There's nothing else I can do.
Oh, I've ordered masks back the end of August, like face masks for work, because there's a local lady in the city that makes really, really nice ones and still hasn't shown up. I messaged her just like, hey, was it actually shipped? And she's like, I'm so sorry. I shipped it like a month ago. It's happened to a couple of things through Canada Post. And she's like, I can reimburse you your money. And I'm like, well, it was like $25. It's not going to like break my bank if I don't get it. But I was like, it's not your fault that Canada Post messed up. So I'm like, I don't want you to, I don't know. Maybe I'm too nice. Maybe I should say, yeah, just refund me. But I'm like, again, it's not breaking the bank and it's supporting someone local that I actually appreciate because like I said, her masks are my favorite. Yeah. But you're right. Like they don't get any control over it.
Right. And honestly, like depending on the circumstances and depending on how much the item is, I don't have a problem paying for an item again. Like, hey,
me too.
Because let's say, with the face masks, for example, in your instance, it's like by the time they remake that item, and I don't give them any more money, they've now made nothing off the item or very little compared to what they would normally have made. It's like, look, I'd rather you like
and if I absorb the cost, I don't care. Like it's not, if it was like a $500, $600.
Yeah. Totally different story. But
PS5.
If it's like,
then we're
a $10, $15 item, I have no problem just straight up purchasing it again,
Yeah. That's how I am too. But I don't see any Muppets being any of the major toys for Christmas this year. But you never know.
I might be sending you a Muppet.
But which Muppet? Like I'm not an Elmo fan. Clearly, we've established that. Like the Tickle Me Elmo and the Elmo Goes Potty toys like did it in for me when I was a young auntie with my niece. So
what about the Grover? Do you like Grover?
Grover's cute. I really like Grover.
Okay. Big Bird?
Big Bird was my middle brother's favorite. He had a Big Bird coat. He was very much a Big Bird fan. Okay. Big Bird's cute.
Snuffleupagus?
I do like Snuffy.
Oscar?
I heard a rumor that like Snuffy was supposed to be Big Bird's imaginary friend.
I've heard that. I don't know if that's
and then people
true or
liked
not.
him and they kept him. I'll have to research that.
Maybe. I don't know. There's Bert and Ernie and there's all sorts of there's a bunch
I don't know the new ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a whole bunch of new characters that I don't know at this point, obviously, because it's been quite a while since I've watched Sesame Street. But November 10th, 1969, Sesame Street debuts.
Aww. So much memories of childhood watching it.
Yeah, it debuted on National Educational Television, which was a predecessor to the Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, that we know today here in the States. So the idea was conceived a few years prior between a television producer named Joan Cooney and Lloyd Morissette, who was the vice president of the Carnegie Corporation. And they wanted to create a television show for children that would kind of, because kids were addicted to TV and were watching a lot of TV at the time, but they wanted this to be educational and good for them rather than just, watching cartoons or whatever. So they received a grant from the Carnegie Corporation, the Ford Foundation, and the U.S. government to produce this new children's TV show, which would go on to be Sesame Street. And by the show's 10th anniversary in 1979, over 9 million children were watching Sesame Street, American children were watching Sesame Street daily, and studies were showing that it had a positive educational impact.
Right. So it's that precursor to the Baby Einstein DVDs that they've actually proven don't increase any educational intelligence in children. But I agree. I can see where Sesame Street it's different. So I can see how it was making an impact.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about Sesame Street was, even at that point in the late 70s and early 80s, they began expanding the cast and crew to include hiring more women, more minorities, and so on and so forth. So they were really a leader in that.
And that forward thinking.
Yeah. And by its 50th anniversary in 2019, Sesame Street had produced over 4,500 episodes, 35 TV specials, 200 home videos, and 180 albums. And the YouTube channel had over 5 million subscribers and over 24 million followers on social media.
It's really hard to believe that it's been around that long.
It is.
Right?
I mean, as a kid, obviously you have no concept of anything, but you just kind of think, in some aspects, you think stuff has always been there. But you don't necessarily know when it started. We're both old enough to know when The Simpsons started, but there's a lot of people out there who have never lived in a Simpsons-free world. It's like they've just always been there. So Sesame Street's just kind of been there.
Always been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And still
even when you said the 10th anniversary, I was like, I still wasn't born yet.
Right. I didn't realize it necessarily was that old. But the show still is on now. So of course, it's on HBO now, which is kind of interesting, but it still does exist.
See, and growing up in Nova Scotia, I got the American version out of Rochester, New York. So I attribute it to the fact that I say Z and Z wrong because of American Sesame Street.
Blame it on us. There's not a Canadian version, is there?
I think with some of the songs, they will do like
they'll
Z versus Z.
them? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's probably just like a voice dub type thing. Yeah. Because I can't imagine there's like a dedicated Canadian Big Bird somewhere.
No. Yeah. It's like
Mr. Hooper, what's going on, eh?
What's going on, eh? With the Canadian accent.
Right.
We'd have some, instead of the Spanish speakers, it would be like Quebecois. You have Métis.
I gotcha.
Get some First Nations. That would be actually really cool.
I had a Big Bird lamp when I was a kid.
Was it the Big Bird that like the lamp was inside of his body? So like the Big Bird glowed?
The Big Bird glued. Yes. Well, he sat.
Oh Lord.
He sat in a nest, and
he's so cute in his nest.
He would glow. And then there was a street light pole with the little Sesame Street sign hanging off, and Little Bird sat on the street sign.
Oh, that is so cute.
And at the top of the light pole was like, a light bulb that, screwed in, and there was like a clear dome thing that, yeah.
Oh, I like that. That would be, no idea what happened to it or where it went?
I don't think I still have it. I still have some of the stuff from when I was a kid. I don't think that I had that thing for a long time though. But I don't think I have it anymore. I'm actually sitting here kind of wishing I had, because that'd be kind of cool to bust out. But
that'd be fun well, you never know. Maybe it's somewhere hidden in.
Oh, I'm sure I could find one on eBay or something.
Oh, except it's going to be like crazy expensive. But it's funny when you talked about, how these things have always been around. My students were talking about a couple weeks ago, like McDonald's. And they brought up like the Hamburglar, and they had like they were just like, what is this? And they were asking me, and I'm like, oh my God, like it's been so long since I've thought about the Hamburglar or like Mayor McCheese or anything like that, right? They don't use
them anymore, or Birdie or the Fry Guy or any of them. Yeah.
Because I was talking about, it's McCafe now. And they're like, well, why did they rebrand? And I'm like, well, if they only target children, then they're missing out on a wider spectrum of customers. And also people like you and I that grew up with that, we've now grown up. And so they're appealing to our Starbucks type style of wants and needs.
See, I want like an old school McDonald's, like from
it would be so cool. Like the kids don't have any idea of like the characters, and like ours would have the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
And the play, like the real place with the cool stuff. And then you would have the birthday parties. It was so epic to go to a birthday party at McDonald's. But
oh yeah. I remember going to those.
I always wanted to visit Sesame Street. Like I wanted to go as a kid and see the store and see Big Bird's Nest.
We have at SeaWorld, they just opened a Sesame Street. I say just opened.
Like
it had opened a while ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. So another thing to add to the bucket list when I go see you.
Right. So I'm actually going to show you now.
Yeah.
The folks at home aren't going to see this, but Trish is
that lamp is so cute.
So that was what I had.
Oh, I want that. What does it say that it's worth online now?
I just had found this image of it.
Yeah.
We'll post this in the story so people can see the lamp that we're talking about.
That's cute.
I've done a quick search on eBay. I didn't find that one.
Yeah.
But I did find a very similar one that's only $35.
That's not bad. Even American's not bad.
So
it is really similar.
Very similar. It doesn't have the Sesame Street sign and it doesn't have Little Bird, but it's very, very similar.
But it's got the post.
Post, right. So you would just screw up. And it looks like it's missing, I guess, the globe top thing there.
You could probably find one to fit.
Yeah. Or you could probably 3D print one or something, or who knows.
That's true. I always forget about that. It's like, yes, you can 3D print things.
I'm sorry.
Work.
What does your boyfriend do? How do you forget that?
He is a 3D printer and designer. Makes some pretty amazing things. I'll shout out Nick's workshop.
There you go. All right. Anyway, yeah, we've gone on a whole diatribe on Big Bird lamps at this point, but Sesame Street been around. So
yeah, all the wonderful things that Sesame Street has done. I mean, even if you just take the educational part, how much that's impacted children, literacy rates, I'm sure, are higher than they would have been. And then you add on the social aspect of like being forward thinking and including women, including people of color, right?
Yeah.
A lot of good things that they were thinking about doing for kids and society in general.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm glad it's still a thing. I would go see Sesame Street live when I was a kid.
Oh, I never got to see any of it like live or on ice or anything like that.
Yeah, so they would do a touring show every year where, like at a theater or something, and you'd go and, you'd have the characters and they'd have some sort of storyline every year that they would do, very similar to, a Disney on Ice or something like that you may have gone to in the past, but it was, in the theater. It was nice.
We had more of like the Canadian version. So like Mr. Dress Up and Fred Penner. You guys don't know, like those would be like Canadian versions of kind of like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah. But something that, maybe didn't necessarily contribute, positively. Well, it depends on your perspective in our next story to society is, Bram Stoker. I can't even now. I'm looking at it. My brain's going blah, blah, blah. Bram Stoker is going to be born on November 8th, 1847 in Dublin, Ireland, to his father, Abraham, and his mother, Charlotte. He's one of 7 kids. He suffered from illnesses that left him bedridden until he was around 7. He couldn't walk or, play like a regular kid. He does end up making a full recovery. I could never find out kind of what the illness was, but he becomes an outstanding athlete in football, soccer for English, player at Trinity College in Dublin, and he gets a degree in mathematics. He is, of course, the famous author of Dracula. So that contribute to literary society, but not necessarily maybe in a positive way. I mean, vampirism can bring people joy, I guess.
Sure.
if you like the horror movies like we talked about last week with Halloween.
Yeah.
Definitely impacted, fashion and film and all that stuff with Dracula, even though it wasn't the first vampire book, but it definitely brought Count Dracula into the forefront of our imaginations. He's actually going to work for 10 years, though, as a civil servant in a Dublin castle, which seems really boring. His first book was actually all about like a legal book about law, which I'm like, oh, okay.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He got the job from his dad, who also worked at the castle. And then on the side, he would work for a newspaper. So still interesting. It was like, okay, civil servant, newspaper. It's like, where did this fantasy writer come into play? So he leaves this job after 10 years and he actually makes the acquaintance of his idol, the actor Sir Henry Irving. And from 1878 until Irving's death 27 years later, he acted as Irving's manager. And he would write letters for Irving, like 50 a day. He would accompany him on his American tours. And he actually encouraged Stoker to write his first book, The Duties of the Clerk of Petty Sessions in Ireland, which is that handbook in the legal administration, published in 1879. So turning to fiction later in life, after Irving passes away, he creates a romantic thriller called The Snake's Pass with a bleak Western Ireland setting in 1890. His masterpiece, the story we all know him for, Dracula, is going to be written and published in 1897. And like I said, that's really the one that introduces us to Count Dracula and kind of establishes that vampire fantasy that is so prevalent nowadays.
Yeah. And has gone on to influence, a whole generation of people and stories and movies. And I mean, even you get into stuff like even Twilight. I mean, because granted, it's totally different, but vampires still,
And it's crazy to think that he only started with 3,000 copies and it actually received really mixed reviews. So despite, friends like Sherlock Holmes, creator, author Arthur Conan Doyle, supporting it, people were still like unsure. There's like, The novel, though, has been translated into 44 languages. It clearly, people started to resonate with the idea. I mean, it's kind of fascinating if you look at because it's dealing with British and American relations as well as this idea of this creature of Dracula. And there's that tie into colonialism and empire building, and America's empire building is different than British empire building. So there's kind of that push and pull there. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea, I took a course in Gothic literature where we studied it.
You took a course on everything.
I love Gothic literature, though. It's so good. It's for someone that doesn't like horror or scary stories, it was really well done. But it's fascinating that it gets picked up in America when the whole book is trying to show how America policies and philosophies is kind of less than British, right? Because Britain was all like, we're the better one after you guys decided to break away.
Well, I just find it interesting. Like, what stories from 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago make it? Whether it's something like, Dracula or even like Shakespeare's work. I mean, you look at, or even Beethoven or Bach or whatever. I mean, you look at the stuff nowadays and there's stuff that came out 3 years ago that I don't remember. There's
exactly
no
right
way that anybody 30, 50, 200 years from now is going to remember some of this stuff, because it's just, and some of it's because there's so many movies and so much media and whatnot out there. There's just no way people are going to remember all of it. But I mean,
but it's like, what resonates to keep it to stick around?
Right. Like, the only thing that can do that is new generations discovering the music. Like, are people going to listen to Beatles music in 200 years? I don't know. I mean, we don't listen to, at least the average person doesn't necessarily listen to like music from the 20s or 30s anymore.
Right.
That's kind of gone by. I mean, every now and then maybe you do like a jazz night or something, and maybe there's something, but it's a general.
Right. Or they rule. What is it? They sample like a piece of it and it's in modern, but that's not really 1920s music.
Like, are people in 50 years going to still listen to Eagles music? I don't know. It'll be interesting. I will.
80 years before Dracula.
50, if I'm still here in 50 years. Well, no, I'm saying
I'd listen to it in 50.
Yeah, in 50. If I'm still, so I'm like, if I'm still alive by then, I'd still be listening to Eagles music. But,
I'll join you. But it's funny that 80 years prior, well, roughly 80 years, in 1819, the first vampire tale that's published is actually John Polidori's, called The Vampire, spelled Vampyre. It's considered the first prose fiction vampire story, but no one who remembers that. No one thinks of that. Everyone knows Dracula, right? So he's considered the father of vampire fiction. and it's led to other film adaptations, like Nosferatu was released in 1922, which is really well done when you think of film at that time, right? The use of light and shadows is really, really cool. Very creepy. 1992 saw the rise of Bram Stoker's Dracula in film, though, with Keanu Reeves playing the main character, Jonathan Harker, and Gary Oldman playing Dracula, which was, it's not my favorite movie, but it's definitely like a fun one to watch. It made a lot of money. It made $215.8 million. Not too shabby.
Yeah, that's a pretty good day.
Yeah. But, from 3,000 copies of a book, more than 200 films have been made that feature Count Dracula, a number second only to Sherlock Holmes. And at the center of this subculture is the legend of Transylvania, which has become synonymous with vampires and influenced fashion. And like you said, Twilight, and, people who identify with kind of the Gothic subgenre of fashion and fantasy and all that. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And what else is pretty cool is that we'll be back next week. We made it through 40 episodes, Trish. Can you believe it?
Woo! Celebrate good times. Come on.
Bottom, bum, bum, bottom, bum, bottom. All right. Well, you know what to do.
If you have any questions, concerns, queries, or freakouts, you can reach us at The Time Machine with Trish and Mike on Instagram, The Time Machine with Trish and Mike at gmail.com. Throw that in the Google machine and find us on YouTube. As well as if you go to Anchor, you can leave us a voice message at The Time Machine with Trish and Mike.
Yes, do all that. We'll see you next week right here on The Time Machine.